Bro, how did you get it out, and what did you have to change in your mentality over that fucking bankruptcy and the divorce? Because like that's really the two things as entrepreneurs that we care about is like we have our home life and our business lives, and then both of them
Yeah.
blew up at the
I
same time.
love that. I love that question because I don't tell this story that often, but when I do, that's the number one thing. So,
All right. Welcome to the Winning Move podcast. We have another awesome guest on today. My friend Kevin Moran, Gutter King is what I call him. I don't think I've ever called you Kevin. I've only called you Gutter King.
how you do?
Thanks for coming on, bro.
I appreciate you having me on. Excited to be here. I
So I
love
want to
what you're
dive
doing
in.
here.
I want to dive into your story of like what got you in entrepreneurship in the first place. Have you always been doing gutters? Because I know you do real estate. Now you have equity splits in businesses.
I'll tell you, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I was delivering newspapers, cutting grass, 12, 13 years old. I just never understood the like working for an hour. So even if, I wouldn't say newspapers is entrepreneurial, but it is kind of because you buy the newspapers in stacks and then you sell them and you got to go collect the money. That kind of I'm dating myself right now, how old I am, but I was doing that really young. I never understood like people working by the hour. My sister was 5 years older than me. And I remember my dad used to drive her to the mall to make like $3.15 an hour. That was like minimum wage back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I was cutting lawns for $20. So I'm like, wait a second, like, Dad, you drive her to the mall 25 minutes away for her to work for 4 hours to basically make $12 less after taxes. And then you got to go pick her up. I'm like, but I go cut like 2 lawns in the same amount of time or less. Like it just didn't make sense to me.
Yep.
So I just always saw it like that. Plus, I didn't want anybody telling me what to do. I was just had that personality. I thought I knew everything. Um, you know how that works out, but I
Same.
really did think I was. I was just kind of always my father was an accountant. He was a really smart guy. He was not an entrepreneur, but I used to ask him everything about how banks work, loans. I don't know why I was interested in that stuff, and he would break it down. My mom was an entrepreneur. Um, she was a software programmer, and she was just she was a badass. Like I watched her like do really well and work really hard, and I just like the combination of that, watching kind of like it's almost like Rich Dad Poor Dad, but my parents were my dad hated his job and he did okay. You know, he wasn't trying to like move up really. He was
Mm-hmm.
a great dad, but not so interested in making a ton of money. And my mom was the opposite. So I was watching both those things. And I watched my mom go much faster than my dad, and she was loving what she was doing. She was up all night, do everything. My mom's 83. She's up. She's with me, staying at my house now. She still works for my company. She does my
Hell yeah.
books. She's up till 10 o'clock last night. I had to tell her to go to bed. She just like loves that stuff. That's probably what I'll be like, you know, when my son is one day has a business, hopefully. So I just was doing that. And then when when I was in high school, I was always already making pretty good money. And back then there was no entrepreneurship programs in college and everything. I just wanted to go start my own business, like really legit, get tons of lawns. Um, I knew that I could make a lot of money doing that. I used to have a notebook and just write all my goals out and like the numbers, how many lawns I had. This is what my expenses would be. It seemed like back then people were coming out of college making like 24 grand. I could see a path to making 50 grand very like
Yep.
in year one. So I
Okay.
was like, why would I go to college for 4 years to learn about, I felt like to learn about shit I probably already know. Um, Turns out I probably didn't know that, but you can't tell that to somebody when they're 17. So I did go for a little while, but I was just so eager to make money and I was learning a lot of BS stuff. So I did that for several years. Bought a home really young, 21, a two-family, a burr. But there was that acronym wasn't around then. I didn't even know what that was. I just did it. It made sense to me. Like I'll rent the one above, fix it up. Um, Made money on that, started buying up real estate and doing that. But I would say I was unfocused. You know, I was doing some real estate. I had the landscaping business. Then I bought a linen business. Why did I buy that? Because winters are slow and it looked like a good cash flowing business. It really wasn't. Kept buying up some real estate. And then when I start doing the gutters, Stratton, because I had the landscaping and one of the guys said, hey, can you go up there and clean my gutters up? And I'm like, I was pretty young. I was like, I don't really feel like going on this guy's roof. And he said, you could just go up there with the blower and blow it out. And he was like, I'll give you $70. And back then that was probably like 130 now or something. So I went home, grabbed the ladder and came back and I blew it out in like 8 minutes because I was young and athletic. And I was like, oh, I'm on to something here. This, like the rest of the week, all I could think about was, this is better. Like I could like go make a ton of money doing this. Nobody's doing this. I mean, I was up and running. I was telling all my customers, I can clean your gutters, giving them prices within the next week. And then that fall, I went and was putting flyers out and I got like 100 houses. And I had a couple buddies with me or a couple workers with me back then. And we would just, they didn't want to go on the roofs. I would just fly through these places. I was like Spider-Man on the roof. So I was like knocking them out. And I was like, this is good business. Plus I saw some differences in landscaping. Like there was a lot of guys getting into it. They were starting to lowball. So I said, hey, I'm going to go over here. Nobody's doing this. Stratton, you like playing football. All I wanted to do was like work and play basketball back then. So I was like, this is going to be free up more time for basketball, but I'll make more money.
Yeah.
Because you can go make $1,000 in a day. Like you don't have to be cutting lawn all day. So I started that up and what the change was when I saw the apartment complexes and I saw all the leaves on them. So then just like anybody, you're like, well, why am I doing houses? Why don't I do these big buildings? And they're easy to walk. So I spent almost a year walking into places every day, like 20 places, knock on the door on the clubhouse. Hey, I'm Kevin with the Gutter Kings. Can I bid on your gutters? Do you clean your gutters in the fall? Can I bid on them? I mean, I did that relentlessly. And I got a ton of contracts from that. But then you have new growing pains. How do you get them all done? Because I can't do them all myself. I had to get other guys and train them. And it was seasonal. So I had to do it in very small periods of time. I was in New Jersey. You have like a 3-week to 1 month period to get all that done.
So it's a massive just push for 3 weeks.
Yeah. I always had too many. Like I could barely get them done, or I was grabbing guys at train station and everything. Like, let's go. Like, get in the van. We're doing these. I was winging it, but I was making money. But I'll tell you what changed. So that's going back to like 2004, 2005. I was doing roofs too for those things. I'm not a roofer, but I was getting roof contracts. Hired some people back then to do them. I wasn't using subcontractors. But I started doing the real estate too, and I was making good money on that. That was when the market was really taking off. And I was buying for cash flow. I was buying in war zones, D-class areas.
Yep.
You're pretty safe on those. I mean, but I got sick of being in those areas, as you can imagine. Anybody.
Yeah, they're a pain in the ass.
Now I was living myself in like an A-class area, and I was going there every day, and a lot of shit happens there. So I started like, I basically was reading books like Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. And I was like, I want the big stuff.
Yep.
So this is the biggest mistake I made in my life, but it turned out to be the best, actually. I started to neglect the gutter business big time. And I started making a lot of money in the real estate. But then I was like, oh, I want these big deals. I want to do condo conversions and everything. I was doing them by myself. And I was not liquid. I was doing these things, what we were talking about earlier, about kind of getting lines of credit and going balls to the wall and stuff. I could have done less, but I always was like, no, I'll do more. It's a good deal. I'll take it. I'll figure out a way to finance it. But I was neglecting that bread and butter gutter money for sure around 2006, 2007. And then the bottom fell out. And I was left holding the bag on big deals. And going through a divorce, which had nothing to do with that. So I was losing money over there. My own home that I bought, I think she's still in that home forever now, 15 years later. I ended up on my brother's couch and with a lot of fucking regret, looking up at the ceiling every night, thinking, what the hell happened here? How the hell did I do this? I was living a nice life and I had a gutter business. I wasn't getting rich or anything, but I was making what I thought was good money then, which was like 175 or something. I thought that was, you know why? Because I compared myself to my buddies who were making 90 and 100. So I was like, oh, I'm killing it. You can't tell me nothing. Then I was like, no, I want to do more. So I had to take a job for the first time in my life and restructure all that debt in a bankruptcy, restructuring. It was brutal. I did that for like 3 years. And I started rebuilding the gutter business and everything all over again. But this time I was like, I'm going to do this right. And I'm going to make this much bigger. So by 2010, 11, 12, I had that thing going. It was making good money, but I had major cash flow issues all the time because I had no credit, none. Like I had a $300 credit card that I had to pay $99 a year to have. So I was doing everything with debit and cash. It was a struggle. So that slowed my growth. Looking back, I can think
you need credit in business. Like, cause like in the real
you need
estate
it.
stuff, it was fine, but you need it just cause like the cash flow, no one really talks about cash flow and what actual cash flow means of shit flowing in, shit coming out.
Yep.
What are people paying? Most motherfuckers don't pay on time, whatever it is.
Well, I'll tell you how much you need it for those apartment complexes and condo associations. Those are the type of jobs I do. I'd get them, and then say you do them on November 24th. You're paying your guys at the end of the week. You're paying them on the 26th. And I had a lot of guys going. And then you send the invoice in basically on the 26th. They're not going to pay that for 60 days. They might even hold it 90 days.
Yep.
But all of them are like that. So you're just like, you have to have enough money to sustain you. So every year around January or this time of the year, February, till this day, I get tons of checks. Now it's massive amounts. Back then, it might have been hundreds of thousands, but I had like bled myself dry. Like I would go down on fumes on a bank account, but I couldn't take on too much because I wouldn't have enough money to cover
that payroll,
all my expenses. But I would go down, I'd go down to like $80 in my bank account, like just to take on as much as possible. So it's not like I would go balls to the wall. But after around 2012, 13, 14, my cash flow started. I was growing really fast, but I still had cash flow problems, but I was living really under my means and I was making money. And really around 2014, 15 is when I really started stacking a lot of money. And I still didn't have credit and everything, but it didn't matter at that point. And I figured out you get resourceful in those situations. I figured out how to get people to pay faster, how to get some customers, almost none of them want to do it, to pay 25% up front for discounts, different stuff. So I was like figuring out all these things. Now I do factoring and stuff, which is where you can get money up front. You can basically sell your invoice. I do that with some of them, so I have no cash flow. But you need personal good credit to do that as well, and your business. So now for the last like 7 or 8 years, it's been great. But for the last 10 years, I started going into other states. So now I'm in 29 different states doing this. And it's pretty much humming and it's running itself.
What was your biggest bottleneck growing to that many states?
It was cash flow was one, and labor for sure. So when I first started going into other states, I had a ton of guys in New Jersey, and they used to, I would train them and they'd know what they were doing. So I would send some for a week to Maryland or something. They'd stay in hotels, and they'd fly through them. I can teach guys, and one guy in particular who still works for me. I mean, between us, we've like created really good systems to do gutters really fast. There's probably like thousands of guys around now that have used our system that probably gonna make money on the side and taught other companies, started their own companies. It's just, we were really into it. He's not a partner. He was an employee, but he just is like so into roofs and gutters. He does get profit sharing from my company, but we've created really good ways to do it. But getting labor was always an issue, because in that type of line of work, if you're 30-something years old and you're cleaning gutters for Gutter King, and you probably made some mistakes in your life. You might have some alcohol, maybe you smoke, maybe you do some pill. I don't know, you do some stuff. So
It's the
not
same
to say
thing as
all of them
regular
don't, but
blue collar workers.
it's
know?
a tough,
it's a tough
thing. So I switched that model in 2000, not completely. I did a little bit at a time. When I started going in other states, it's very easy to go into other states and get a big push on complexes because they've never seen you. And there might be like 100 players, managers who manage a lot of the properties. So you can get a big push, because people say, why do you go into other states? I love that push. You can go in there and grab money quick. And because it's residual, you get them on a 2 times a year schedule. I can do them forever.
Yep.
So it's like, it's right in front of you. Why not go get it? So when I started going into states like Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, I was in the off season having that guy I was just talking about and another one go out there and train guys. We get a couple jobs because it'd be off season. We do them and we train them. And then we built out these subcontractors. We call them goobers. That's like Gutters and Uber. It's their truck, their ladder, their insurance. And now I have a ton of them all over the place. And the only employees I have are some in New Jersey, that one I just talked about, and his crews. But the subcontractors is a much better model.
Really? So you don't, at this point, you don't have any W-2 employees really, besides like a core team, and everything's subcontractors. How do you vet them? Like, how do you make sure they don't ruin the brand?
That's a good question. So we do a couple things. I have a lot of videos and everything. We solicit them, and there's like all these steps they got to go through. And you'll start off with like 50 guys interested, and it'll get down to like 4, because they have to have all different types of insurance. They got to do, go through the questionnaire. They got to see the videos and say, hey, I know how to do this or not. Our rates are, if you know what you're doing, you're going to make good money. If you don't, and you're kind of like trying to figure out gutter cleaning, you will look at those rates and be like, it might take me 2 or 3 days to do it. Whereas another guy might say like, yeah, me and 2 guys will do that in 6 hours. That's how my guys look at those complexes. So I'm looking for guys who look at it the same way. Then they go through, they do a phone call with my team. It's 2 calls. It's one, and then there's the second call. And then I even talk to them at the end too. And you can get a really good feel on it. And I like talking to them because they're like, oh, I saw your videos. And I can talk to those guys and know. And then I kind of sell them on the vision, like, hey, I got so many jobs, you don't even believe it. Like, we're going to keep you, you're going to make a lot of money with us, but we're not your employer. We're just going to be your best client. We're going to give you work over and over again. And I'm going to help build your business, because you can do these jobs over and over for me. And you can, if you have other stuff going on, we'll work around you if you do a good job, and we'll be your best customer. Then what we do is say I'm in I have a new guy in Nashville, but I already have 2 subcontractors there. One's been with me since 2014. The other one since 2019. If there's like a 30 building complex, we'll circle like 5 buildings and they'll go just do those 5 on, say, a Tuesday, and we'll line up the regular guy to do all the other ones on a Wednesday, but then we'll pay him to go check his buildings. But we don't tell that guy we're checking your buildings. That's a good way to know. We'll do that for like their first few jobs. And then once they get some momentum, you're like, all right, this guy's doing what he's saying he's doing. Because they could try to like do shitty work and stuff, but what's the point? What are they going to go make $1,000?
Yeah.
The guys, I sell them like you can make a lot of money. So that's a good question.
With this, essentially, you're an amazing marketer. Is what, like, you can just drum up business wherever you go, and you're like, yeah, bro, I can market so much, I can just drum up the business and make the arbitrage. It's a marketing play. And even so it's a marketing play to get the complexes,
I'm so dialed into that. I've been doing that for so long. And then it's a marketing play to get the guys, the subcontractors
Yep.
to want to do it, to buy in. And then they have to be unique. They have to have kind of clean vehicles and maybe be a small company. Because if you're a bigger company with a bunch of wrapped vehicles, it's not going to work. And you're probably not going to, it's also an ego thing. They're not going to want to subcontract work for me. And they have their own. So it's not that we're looking for a needle in the haystack, but it's for every 10, it's only one that really applies to.
Okay.
So I have virtual assistants doing this all day on all parts.
Just going and looking on both ends. So it's a two-sided funnel.
They're texting subcontractors, they're emailing them, they're calling, they're running my operations. So when you're asking me about W-2, basically my whole team is in the Philippines.
Same. I don't have any.
I love VAs. I'm the biggest proponent of VAs. That was a life changer for me when I started doing that in 2014.
Wow. Yeah. You've been doing them for a while.
Yeah, I've been on to it early. It's great.
Yeah. I've never had I hired on one guy one time and I didn't like him.
Yeah.
But everything else that we do is all virtual assistants.
I just did at my event last week. I gave a whole like 2 hours on that. I just think it's like anything. If you gotta vet them, you gotta work with them, you gotta give them away. You can't just say, "Hey, get going." But I'll find if you take, say, an assistant here who makes $40,000 a year, that's $20 an hour. If you did work 40 hours, you could find someone over there, not for $4 an hour, because that's a really low level. One of those people can collect data for you. But if you get a $9 or $10 an hour person over there, that person will run circles around the American.
Well, if you pay someone
Circles around them.
$20 an hour over there, you are getting world-class talent.
For much less than 20. I'm saying if you have a person here who's making $20 or $25 an hour, who's
That's
in
what
your
I'm saying
office.
though. Like if we have a
Yeah.
$20 an hour person over there, like you are getting the best of the best.
Oh, you're getting, like I have, so the person who runs my stuff, she has a master's.
Yep.
She's really smart. She is very smart. She runs a whole team of thing. I communicate with her on WhatsApp every day, check on things. We do Zooms, but I mean, she gets profit sharing. She's making a lot of money. She bought up a 10 unit over there. She buys up land. She's killing it over there because she's getting rich.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, like they're not getting taken advantage of. They're living incredible lives. I had a guy who worked for me when he first started working for me. It was $4 an hour. And he had a blue tent, a blue tarp. He was in a garage that didn't have a roof, and the tarp was over it, and the water was running off. And he was on a laptop. He showed me a video. That was 4 years ago. He now owns a home that him and his wife live in, and they just closed on an investment property around Christmas. In 4 years, their life went from a blue tarp and living in a garage. So no anti-American people, but people over there, they're not trying to buy Air Jordans or fancy cars. They're in third world countries. They want to get in the nice part of the Philippines and give their family the best bet. And they're incredible people and they work hard. And the other thing is they have credit cards of mine. I have, of course, limits and stuff. I've never had one charge since 2014 that I had to check them on. They're so honorable people. Americans, you know how many guys I had do bullshit on my credit card? You know, like they try to throw a Gatorade on there with the gas. I had a guy one of my guys found him. His girlfriend was behind the van and she was pumping up gas on my card. I had a guy spend $190 at a club one time on my thing. I mean, he got caught the next day, but that's just like that. They just don't do that shit over there. Not in I haven't had anyone do that.
A recent awful experience of someone stealing a lot of money from us over like a 2-year span. But then it happens, bro. You get money stolen from you and you move on.
Yeah.
I feel like if you aren't I've never talked to anybody who's actually done business who has not had money stolen from them.
I've had money stolen. It will absolutely happen. It's inevitable. Keep it moving.
Exactly.
It shows that you have money, that they want to take it from you, right? That you're making it. They're not trying to steal from broke people.
Exactly. Bro, how did you get it out? And what did you have to change in your mentality over that fucking bankruptcy and the divorce? Because like that's really the two things as entrepreneurs that we care about is like we have our home life and our business life, and then both of them
Yeah.
blew up at the
I
same
love that. I love that question because I don't tell this story that often, but when I do, that's the number one thing. So I'm actually happy all that happened to me because it changed me. And like, yeah, I had to like go through all these barriers to do it. I used to sit there and look at the ceiling and like beat myself up for like months. Like, the fuck did you do? Why? Like, I was so pissed to go to that job. I was so pissed to be on my brother's couch. I was pissed at everything. I wanted to just go back and like just go back to what I was doing, but you can't. So I had to fix a lot of things about myself and like have to really be honest with yourself. Like, you were greedy. And I remember saying to myself, because when I was making a lot of money in real estate, I used to think I was really smart. And I used to say to myself, you're not that fucking smart at all. You really aren't. You actually might be an idiot. Like, you have to get really say stuff to yourself that's rough. So I was like, all right, I'm going to really do this right next time. And I need to figure out some stuff. I also found out that I had these barriers. You know, Mark Evans always talks about that. And I know that since you're in that deal maker and you think about that, but I used to compare myself like to other people. I did this. Like, I thought 100 grand was good. And then I thought like 150 and 175 was really good. I thought 250 was like insane. And part of that was because you look around your circle, everybody knows that 5 people, it absolutely, your circle you will be the average of that.
Exactly.
And I would always have like some guy who worked for me who was making 18 or 20 bucks an hour, who I like to drink some beers with. And then I'd have one friend who was making 300. And then I'd have a bunch of guys in that 80 to 120 range. And it just feels normal. So if you're above them, you feel like you're kind of doing well. You don't want to go in the deal makers talking like that. You'll feel like
Bro,
it won't work.
I am by far
People,
the smallest one in the mastermind. I think I'm the youngest, but by far the smallest.
you're
And like, you
that's
don't
that's
want
the
to
other
bring
thing.
it up though,
Yeah,
like.
I don't know if that doesn't even mean it doesn't matter. You want to be the smallest one, really,
Oh yeah.
but because that has the most to grow. But really, like time is part of it too. I have time on many people, and when I rebuilt, it was a lot easier than somebody starting because I already had like 15
Yep.
years. Plus those losses, what we were just saying, they were actually an advantage because you can like, if you get really honest with yourself, you're like, all right, what am I not good at? What did I make a mistake? How can I do this better? It was a huge advantage. So I knew after I got over beating myself up, I was like, I just had this idea one day. I was writing I was having some beers on a Labor Day. I was bored and I don't know. I didn't like something was going on with my girlfriend. So I was sitting there like pissed off and I'm like writing. And I had this idea to make $250,000 in gutters net. I wasn't doing that. I was doing the insurance. I was making like netting like 60 or 70 on the side with gutters. I was rebuilding. This is like 2009. So like 2 years after all this shit happened. And then I was like, why am I trying to make 250? Let me look at what this looks like to make 1 million, not gross net. How do I want to make $1 million a year? Because if I make $1 million a year, all my problems go away.
Yep.
I didn't want to buy a Lamborghini. I just wanted like
Freedom.
to figure that out, that number. So I wrote it out and I'm like, I reverse engineered it. All right, I make this much on a complex. I net this much. I do them twice a year. I started like breaking it down. And what you find is like, that's actually doable. It's not doable this year, but I'm like, I could do this over 3 or 5 years for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just executed on it. You couldn't tell me anything. I just went every day. I was doing it working hard anyway, but I'm like, I got to really work smart to get there. Because when you set your goals low, and I'm going to call 250 a low goal, you'll just figure, you know what, if you put that in there, you might come in at 210. But if you start making your goals bigger, like how do I make $1 million a year or $1 million a month? Now I want to make $1 million a month. You can't do the same thing. You can't just double what you're doing. You can't just stay up later. It's not going to work. You have to like
think about
be
it.
resourceful. Yeah. So that mental block of like of changing things really helped me. And I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have people like the deal maker and everything. One thing people always say, oh, I need to get friends like that. You can have your friends on YouTube. You know who my friends were in like 2013, 14, 15? Jim
Tony Robbins.
Rohn,
Yeah.
Marcus Lemonis on The Prophet. I used to watch him all the time. There's like 4 or 5 others. That's all I took in. I like blocked all the other shit out. I put a lot of my friends on group texts on silent. They're good guys. I just don't want to hear about like they were drunk and their girlfriend. Like, I don't give a shit, man. I'm trying to make $1 million a year here, and I'm trying to like rebuild my life. And then that led to me to try to find masterminds and stuff. So for the last 4 or 5 years, those are all my friends now. I still have some of those friends because I have some really good friends from the past. But the guys who were like getting drunk, not paying child support, I just got rid of all of them. I don't want them around.
Well, they aren't focused. Like, you can feel them. And then for me, I noticed my vibration changed, my interest changed, and then I have nothing to talk to them about. Unless we were watching like football, like I'd be like, what am I doing here? Like, I'd rather just be on my laptop, essentially. Like, I'd rather be on my laptop getting some shit done.
That's how I feel. Like, so I stopped drinking 4 years ago. I used to go out and get drinks on, weekends or nights and stuff. And I used to think to myself, if I wasn't drinking right now, what would I be doing with these 2 guys? Like, we're watching UFC or football. Like, there's no way I'm hanging out with them having a Diet Coke. No way. I'd be bored out of my mind. So that's what happened when I stopped drinking. I'm like, I want to talk about this kind of stuff in business and everything and go back and forth. Yeah, once you do that, they can be cool people, good people. I just don't want to, I'm thinking about other stuff.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing that I found. Cause like, I mean, you can see me rocking back and forth with my chair. Like, I can't really hold still, let alone like talk to you about some fucking bullshit about whatever happened or your job or this or that. Cause like for me, I'm like, bro, just change the output. Like, it's really simple. Change the output and you'll get what you want. You just got to kind of go do it. And then people don't execute on it.
I'm too. If people tell me about like a problem, like, and they bring up the same problem like second or third time, I'm like, bro, we already went over this. Let's get to it. Here's a solution.
Bro, exactly.
And like, are we going to do this? Because I'm not going to be talking about this every time I see you.
Exactly.
Like, they'll talk about some girl who's doing something. So move on, go get another one. Or tell her how you feel. Like, what are we talking about? Or they don't like their job, their income. So skill up and go do it yourself or move to another job. Like, maybe not today, but like, what's your plan for the next 90 days? That's all I want to talk about. I don't want to be talking about your job in 5 years.
Exactly.
That you hate.
That you hate.
Yeah, I get like this too. Like, I can't. I'd rather if I'm going to do that, I'd rather just go home and get on my laptop because I enjoy working.
Exactly. For me, I was talking about this on the podcast the other day. I grew up playing like Legos and Minecraft, and working is just a big version of Legos and Minecraft. Like, I just get to build shit, right? Yeah. Then it works and it makes me money,
That's
how many guys did you have fall off a roof? Oh, go ahead.
None no yet.
Well, it doesn't matter anymore too, because I have their insurance.
Well, I fell off a roof, but I fell off a 1-story roof. It was like a 10 by 12 pitch. I was walking on the ridge line. It was like at the end of the day, I knew it was dangerous, but I went for it. And I tumbled off the roof. I fell into a bush. I dislocated my shoulder, and there was a woman there with a dog walking around the condo. She starts screaming at the top of her lungs like I was dead. And I remember I got up and I was trying to comfort her. Like, I'm all right. I'm going to live. I was walking around like this. But Stratton, I'm going to tell you, I finished the day. I finished the next 45 minutes. I kept working.
Right.
And then she came out. It was around Christmas time. She came out with Christmas cookies, and she found me.
Yeah.
And then I went to the hospital after that. That's the only time. But I always tell guys when they start, people don't fall off roofs. They fall off ladders. Roofs are pretty hard to fall off of. And especially the ones we do. We do the condo complexes and apartment complex. This is also a strategy. They only have like 4 by 12 and 6 by 12 pitches because they're cheaper. Like a multi-million-dollar house will often be like a 10 by
pitches. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't fuck with those. There's no need. I got so many. I don't want, because that if you walk on those, I think you'd have guys every year having problems, and I don't want that heat. So So we have a whole ladder course, and we design like all the way we set up ladders, like everything's thinking about there's guys going to fall off these. How do we limit that risk? And we've been really good about doing that. And we teach our subs to do that too.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't
So
want anybody getting hurt.
my dad fell off our roof when we were putting up
Did it?
Christmas lights, and you'll enjoy this. So we have a pitch, and then we have
Yeah.
another one. So it's there's just two levels, and we're on the top level, and we had a ladder from the first pitch up to the second one. And I was like, how the fuck do I get down from here? He was an electrician. He's like, oh, it's fucking easy. You're like, word for word, like, just do it, right? He goes and he steps, and it slips out because it's icy. And then he can't get any grounding, throws him down, flips him off the roof. He broke every single rib. He had to get life flighted out. And for 5 minutes, he was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. He's like, nope. I'll get up. Same thing though. Cause like I always wondered about that. Cause that was sketch. What have you done to get more focused? I think that is my biggest issue.
I had focus issues, and I had shiny new object syndrome my whole life, for sure. So now I ask myself, like when we were talking about some of those things that guys were involved in, I don't even,
Yeah.
I mean, not the risk factor. I just try to stay out of them. I try to stay in my lane. I ask myself, is this a good use of my time, or should I be focusing more on them? So I do something Kevin A or Kevin B. I say, if Kevin A keeps doing this and he keeps pushing forward, if Kevin B starts taking time and starts messing around with these new things, who's better off in a year? Who's better off in 6 months? And the answer is almost always the person who just stays right focused on what they're doing, especially if it's working. But one thing I use is a tomato timer. Some scientist did it, Pomodoro. It's 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. So you set a timer and it's 25 minutes on, and you can have a piece of paper or a Word document open on your computer. And if does something always flash into your head you should be doing and you get distracted? I do that. So I'll just write a little note to myself, or I'll type it in there and I stay zeroed in on my task. I don't look at my social media. I have my phone off. I don't do anything. Nobody comes into my office, and I go for 25 minutes. Then you have 5 minutes to do whatever you want. You want to look at Facebook, you want to look at Instagram, you want to text your girlfriend, whatever you are. And then I go back. So I do that. I used to do 2 2-hour sessions a day. So that's 25 on, 5 off, but 4 in a row. So 2 hours. Then I would go to the gym, go to lunch, do everything, and I'd come back and do it. If you do that for 4 hours a day and you're focused, you'll get more than you do in 8 hours. So now I only do 2 hours a day. I really don't work that much anymore. I do calls and stuff like this. I don't really call this work. This is fun, and I call people and everything. But when I do focused work, I do it like that. And I can get pretty much everything done I want in 2 hours. If you do it every day like that and you really don't start texting, so you can't text your friends, turn your phone off.
Yeah.
So, because if you get a text, you're like, oh, I have to answer this, or a call. I just do that 25-minute thing, whatever it is. You know, like things I hate to do, like, so my mom does the bookkeeping, she'll send me an Excel sheet and she'll say, hey, you got to tell me what these expenses are for. I can't figure them out. And there's 17. I hate doing that. But I'm kind of the person that needs to do that. So that's something I would focus in. I can give me 25 minutes of zeroed in. I'll give you the answers. Because some of them I'm going to know right away. Some of them I got to look up. But I know that clock's ticking. I have it on my computer, and that keeps me very zeroed in. Kind of like when you go to the gym. You ever see people like, they're like doing everything but working out.
Yeah.
They take 3 minutes. So when I go to the gym, I have a hit timer and I set it for 60 seconds in between rest, 24 seconds for my reps. Like there's not even like 3 seconds to spare. So I do my exercises and that clock starts ticking 60 seconds. That's about what you need to recover. And then I go right again. Do I listen? I'm listening to music, but if I start texting my friends and stuff at the gym, like I won't have enough time to keep to that schedule. So I kind of was doing that with working out, and it worked. So I said, I'm going to really do this with work. Like, I don't, when I go to the gym, I'm not like doing other stuff. I wouldn't take a phone call. But so that's really worked with my focus. So eliminating bullshit and then doing that tomato timer has helped. Warren Buffett has a thing he used to say. He says, hey, write down everything you want to accomplish in your life that you want to be great at and that you really want to do. Write down 25 things. And then he says, all right, cross out 23 of them because you're really only going to be great at 2 of them. Stay focused on those 2 things. It's true. Everybody, oh, I'm going to do this and that. And then you never really get good at anything. So that's kind of when I was trying to do the gutter thing, when I was like, hey, I'll net $1 million. And of course I kept growing it. I was really zeroed in on that. I wasn't trying to do other stuff. You can still have your life. I had a girlfriend, all that stuff. But I mean, during the day, like that's what I was zeroed in on. Not an Amazon store, or, hey, let me start flipping properties or wholesaling properties. Like I was doing one thing. And I think that it worked out much better for me because in my younger years, I was doing, remember, I think I told you when I first got on, I was unfocused. I had the landscaping business. I was making money. I should have 10x that. I should have poured gasoline on that. Instead, I was like, oh, let me get this linen business. Oh, let me kind of flip a property here. And then like I was going back and forth all the time. And the results were, I was doing okay, fine. That's when you start making $130,000 a year, or 150. If you want to make $1 million, if your goal is to make a big number, you're going to have to be zeroed in on it. That's what I think.
Exactly. I love that. What's been your biggest growing point in the second phase of your life?
The mindset thing that like I can do anything. So you look at this blue collar thing. This was an idea of mine about 15 months ago. More than that probably, but I really like 15 months ago, I'm like, I'd like to do that. I'd like to have masterminds and I'd like to like help other blue collar guys. And then I just had that event this week and people are flying in.
Yep.
A surgeon, engineer, like really high level people are flying in to hear me talk and everything. And you just think like, wow, you can do anything. Like if I'm being cocky, like I'll tell my mom, because you can tell your mom anything. I'm like, you can't tell me shit. You can't tell me I can't do anything. I just like I've done a lot of stuff. Can I do way more? And people, I'm not comparing myself against other people. I'm not, you could say, oh, this guy did $1 billion. This guy's talking about making $10 million doing gutters. It's not that. It's like, I'm on my own path. For what I'm thinking about, like I know what I can do anything I want. And I know I'm just getting started actually. And even though I've been working 32 years, I'm just getting started. The biggest advantage, I used to almost get mad at that. Like, I want to be a younger guy like you and then have that mentality. I see you guys have it. I see Mike Burns has it. I see the young guys in the Dealmaker have it. I didn't have that back then. I just had ceilings and I didn't know. I wasn't exposed to people making deca millionaires and everything. I wasn't at all. I never was around that. So I never even knew it was really possible. I'd see it, like you might drive by or you'd see it on TV. I was like, well, that's not
But
me.
it's not, I think for that, it's not real. Like it wasn't real until I would say I met Mark and I met a kid named Josh Snow, who's 28 and his company does $200 million a year. That like was like really like the switch towards like, I can do anything. Like they're great humans, but I can do the same thing.
So one of the other things is, which is super powerful, is what you just said, is borrowed belief. When you meet the person doing that, and then you become friends with them and you forget that this guy's doing 200 million, you're like, I see what he's doing. He's not really that different. You could just see how they think a little bit different, a little pivots, and it changes your whole mindset. And we're talking about money, but it's not about money. It's about anything. That's why I know you were a really good football player. When you're around, that's why you have these brothers you got 2 brothers in the Super Bowl. Like they don't know any different. He just watched his brother do it. But if you watched your brother be a pretty good varsity football player, you might think that's normal. And you might be a pretty good varsity football player. in my town growing up, that we had like these state champion wrestlers, and they'd go off to college and everything. And there was 2 sets of brothers, and like every last one of them did it.
Yep.
Because they were beating each other up. They didn't know anything else. And that was normal to them, to go to dominate your entire state from day one in high school, basically lose one match, and then go to college and do the same stuff.
It's the standard.
They don't know anything different. But you take another person, they think, maybe going 30-7 is really good. That's been a big thing. And then the last thing is, I thought I had to do everything on my own. Solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, when they start, they think nobody can do everything like them. They're the smartest people. They're the only one that can do a good job. It's not true at all. It's a bunch of nonsense. My job is to make other people the best version of themselves, help them elevate their thing, and it helps elevate the company. If I'm only worried about me, they stagnate. And if they are A players, they're going to leave you. They're going to go to an entrepreneur who does give them that growth, because they might not want to be entrepreneurs, but they want to get better. They want to make more money. They want to feel great when they go home. And if you don't do that, they'll leave you. And then that idea of like, I also owned only businesses by myself. And now I look at it like, hey, how do I get a piece of something much bigger and bring all my skill set and combine it with other people's skill set? And maybe other people are on a different avenue. They're younger. They want to be operators. They want to grow businesses. And how do I just take a piece of that and not leverage all my time, but leverage all my experience? That's what I'm doing with these businesses now.
What's your goal for Gutter King this year?
It's not complete, like where I need to be sellable. So I have that's really a key thing I want to do this year, is make it so that I feel like I can get top dollar for it. Whether I sell it or not, I don't know. I've thought about selling it for years. That's just what we do as entrepreneurs, right? You have one bad day and you're like, fuck it, man, I'm gonna take a bunch. I'm out of here. I'm gonna take millions of dollars and I'm out. But I really like the cash flow. I want to continue to get it more and more streamlined, very sellable. And I do want to grow. I'm going into other states, Texas, Oklahoma, California. And I'm doing that this year. When I go in the first year, I don't go in gangbusters, because I have to set up those subs. So I go in there and I make good money. And the second year is when we go nuts. So we're going the first year into like 4 different states this year. And that's what I'm doing with that. But I'm really that's part of my time, but that's a lot of my team is building that, because I've taught them how to do it. And what I really want to do is do more deals where people are really good operators. I think they're really good people. And then I help them scale their business, and I take a piece of the equity, because I can show them how I did what I did. That's what I was doing at the mastermind. I'll tell you exactly how I did it. Because I know a lot of people, blue collar million, like I always talk, I'm going to show you how to net millions, not gross millions, net. Because that's why we're doing it. And we want to do that in the same calendar year, not over your lifetime. Let's do this. It's very doable. Got to think different.
What else is Blue Collar Millionaire all about? Like, how can they learn more about it and everything?
I got a Facebook group called Blue Collar Millionaire, and really that's all free. Chris Garrison and I do it together. We give out free advice. We do a live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. We bring on different entrepreneurs, a lot of blue collar guys, sometimes not, but just guys who can tell their stories. And that inspires people, because Stratton, it's the same story all the time. Basically, it's a guy who just didn't take no for an answer. He hit his head against, he figured it out. The smartest ones learn off other people's mistakes and not their own. I learned off my own. I want people to learn off my mistakes and go much faster than me. I want them to skip all that shit I did in 2006 and 8. I would love to go back in 2000 and say, oh, chill. I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to show you how to make $1 million a year. And I'm going to show you how to do this in 3 years. And I absolutely was at that. I could have listened to that and done that. And I would have saved myself a whole lot of heartache, because it's lonely and brutal to do it on your own. Why? Think of anything other things in life. We don't try to do those things on our own. You know, if you don't try to learn to drive a car on your own, you don't just say, hey, let me crash into some trees here and I'll figure this shit out. You get somebody who knows how to drive a car really well.
Yep.
It was your dad, your mom, they've been doing it for 20 years. They show you how to do it. And next thing you know, you're driving a car. But that's like the analogy. You just go crash your car like a bunch of times. It makes no sense.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
Really
So
good.
that's what I'm trying to do is how do I help guys do that? And I want, and blue collar mindset is, it's often just really low thinking. They don't think big. Your friend who's doing 200 million, he doesn't have that problem at all. And I don't know what type of company it is, but I know it's not blue collar. It's like a software. They think super big.
Yeah.
They're drawn to that, you know, but they could do that. People can think much bigger. I want to keep thinking bigger. I have my own limits still. I look at something like 100 million. It just seems like crazy. 10 million doesn't seem crazy at all. Why is that? I don't know.
The top 5 most successful people I know, though, is a blue collar guy with a construction
Yeah.
company. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's massive things. I got a couple friends, they took over their dad's business. They do highways all in on the East Coast. I mean,
Like,
they're doing
big.
hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Exactly.
They're everywhere. And regular guys, CED students, cool guys, they drank too much at high school parties. You know, now they're 50 years old, they're killing it. It's all made up in our head, but they didn't know anything because they watched, their dad was like, they had this monster house. It was like in another town, but they went to our school. Like they just saw what their dad did. They didn't know anything different. They just did, I mean, they inherited it, but they grew it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't like, yeah, they didn't think, oh, I live in this house and my parents make, you know, combined $80,000 a year. That's what I'll do. All they knew was millions.
I think that is the one thing. So I will never live in a certain area because if I ever expose my child to that, that'll become their normal and then they'll go back. So I will only ever live in A-class areas. I will only ever live a certain type of lifestyle because then, yeah, if everything hits the fan, whatever, we reset. But they need to consistently be exposed to. If you just grow up flying private, that's the normal. And then that's essentially just what you bring into your life.
Absolutely.
As stupid as that sounds, it's the 100% the truth.
Living where you live is so important. Where you go to school, who your friends' parents are, not the networking, just that you see it all the time. It just becomes normal to you. So you do it. And yeah, like we were talking about those D-class areas. If you grow up there, I mean, why would you think that you can live in a $1 million home, run a big business, and not have stress because you're watching your parents stress about bills all the time? They're probably arguing it. And then what happens? You do it too. You don't know they can't teach you anything. They don't know anything.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
So where can people find out more about you?
You can find me on Facebook, Kevin Marin, Marron, Kevin, Marron. I'm on Instagram. Most of my stuff's on Facebook, but that's Kev Gutter at Instagram. But the best place probably is Facebook group, is Blue Collar Millionaire on Facebook. You just check it out. But if you go on my Kevin Marin page, I have stuff about it all the time. Anybody can message me, got questions. I love talking to entrepreneurs, anybody I can help. It's just like, this is really my passion project right here. You know, I've already figured out ways to monetize it, that's how we think, Stratton. But I just really was doing it for nothing for a year there, just having fun. And guys message me. I go on a walk every day for an hour, get my 10,000 steps in. That's what I do. I talk to guys. I call them, I message them. I try to help them out with their problems. I love doing it.
I love it, dude. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.